Party with your host, Dustin Rybka.
Hello and welcome to Sex Party. I am your host, Dustin Rybka, and oh boy, do I have an episode for you guys this week. My guest, Jennifer Mondello, aka Jennifer Steele. Jennifer is a porn legend. She is an author. She is also famously the woman who took down Ron Jeremy. This episode is a lot of things. This episode is packed with some dark stuff, some fun stuff. Trigger warning, we do talk about rape and all of the terrible shit that Ron Jeremy is accused of doing. We talk about grooming and Jennifer's crusade against that. It's also a very fun episode, believe it or not. We talk about the 20-person gangbang she did, what she's up to on OnlyFans, and so much more. I'm honored to have her. I'm honored to hear her story, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it too. So, without further ado, enjoy my conversation with Jennifer Steele.
This week's conversation.
Jennifer Mondello, aka Jennifer Steele, the famous porn star, author. Welcome to Sex Party. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing wonderful. Dodging all these sicknesses that are going on around me.
Yeah. We talked a little bit earlier offline about how you're sick on a Monday, you're fine on a Tuesday, then you're either depressed or sick again on a Wednesday. I've been going through it. It's this weird fall transition, which is never fun, right? And do we just drink vodka to get through this? Do we take vitamins? Do we do both? Right? So like you and I have tried to put this interview together for a while. I'm incredibly honored to have you, to be honest. You're a legend. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for doing the show because it means a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, it's exciting to be on.
And second of all, for the people who maybe they're younger, maybe they're living under a rock, maybe they're sexually repressed. Like, can you talk a little bit about who you are, what you've done, and what you do?
Sure. I actually... Like if I say in one word or phrase, what I mostly was during the height of my career is I was an exotic dancer and I did fire shows, and I started doing porn a few years into that. So I could promote my fire shows by mixing in fire with my porn. So I did that in a few scenes. I made over 100 movies. I did a bunch of fire stuff, and I was the first porn star to breathe fire while having sex. I was on HBO's Sexcetera. I've been on Howard Stern, HBO's Real Sex. And then recently last year I came out with a book called Adult Agency, and it's about how the industry sort of let the Ron Jeremy situation go for so long. And now I'm teaching at colleges about sexual grooming. So that's where I'm at.
So you've had an incredible storied life. So that we have that on record, right? And a lot of places that I've read, people I've talked to about you, I think. And maybe we'll just get into it right now and get it out of the way. But like you are sort of credited as either the person or one of the people who actually finally brought Ron Jeremy down.
Yeah, actually, it was the last time he committed a sex crime, and the person called the cops. The cops were looking for any kind of history, and one of the things that they found was my old articles. Of interviews that I had done from the time he did it, all the way through. And those interviews were pretty much ignored by the industry. They still booked him for stuff, still sent him around. When that last incident happened, the cops called me. And I was one of the people who told him this has been going on for a long time with a lot of people. So yeah, I mean, I was part of the investigation.
Right. And again, like, this is sensitive territory. I mean, I know you're tough and smart and have
I've
written.
been through it all at this point.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm not going to be the interview guy who like presses where it's like really uncomfortable.
Yeah, they
unless
want to like relive everything.
I mean, unless someone's like an asshole, then maybe I would press, but you're definitely not an asshole. So, so I just want to be, I want to be real, but I also want to be sensitive to, you know, the crimes he committed. We are talking about rape, obviously.
Yeah.
And so if any point, if you're like, I'm done with this conversation, just you can tap out.
Okay, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. The tap out button is always there, right?
Yeah.
On Sex Party, because you can't have a sex party without a tap out button. Come on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this guy, Ron Jeremy, in case the viewers don't know, famous porn star, was in the industry forever.
He was the #1 most recognizable porn star in the world, and I believe still is today.
Right. He was not a good looking man, and that was part of his whole shtick, right?
Mm-hmm.
I actually met him when I was like 22, like in a strip club at one of his strip club appearances, and he was so like blindly drunk. They were just kind of shuffling him from person to person and like taking pictures or whatever. And, you know, there was a documentary made about him, and then he was sort of this celebrated, hey, anybody can do it, right? If I can do it, And then the bombshells, right? And then it turns out and I will let you take the wheel now, because that's just my Dustin fucking, you know, whatever.
Yeah, well, there are 50 women who came forward that were in Los Angeles County, and their stories were viable enough that it was part of the case. Now, that's not counting all the other women around the country who weren't part, you know, because this case was only for, you know, Los Angeles County. It was like that 50 is underreported. It's like it's been going on for decades, and he would go to a different city, you know, probably every week, you know, if not more cities. And they would send him to strip clubs. So, you know, a lot of his victims were sex workers, and like their stories wouldn't be taken seriously. There were times cops were called and then just walked away with an autograph. You know, like it's imagine that. Like, that's one girl that was somebody who was up in Michigan. She called the cops and they said that she couldn't prove she didn't want it. And then they left, and one of the cops had an autograph in his hand from Ron. It's like, I mean, it's like just surreal.
Yeah.
So,
no, I mean,
now they were all ready to take him to trial. Like the Paul Thompson, who was also the same prosecutor who prosecuted Weinstein. And I believe he prosecuted the Cosby case too. He was the prosecutor for this, and before they could take it to trial, they found Ron to have dementia, and he wasn't able to stand trial. So there's going to be no trial. He's just going to be in a state hospital for the rest of his life.
Okay. Wow. All right. So did they obviously used the dementia to get out of the trial? So were they trying to use the dementia to say that he was committing these crimes because he had dementia for the?
No, that never came up. That wasn't something that ever came up.
Right. Yeah. That was kind of a dumb question, but hey, that's
not a dumb question, because honestly, when it came up, I thought of it, that people might, you know,
sure.
Say. So yeah, I'm like, it's not a dumb question at all.
Well, we believe in dumb questions. We are the king of dumb questions, because you got to mix in some. Exactly. And you got to mix in some of those with the smart questions, right? We need to play to the full spectrum of human intelligence, because nobody is dumb, except for some of the people in my comments. They're kind of dumb. Okay, so what was his game? Because so this is the thing that I think is
he was a groomer.
Sure.
He had. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. This is all you.
One of the things that his MO was that he would gain people's trust. And his celebrity alone kind of like helped do that for him, because people assumed, oh, well, he's a porn star, so, you know, it's not like he's going to try to rape me. This guy gets more pussy. Can I say that word here? Okay,
of course. Yes.
It's a sex party, so.
Yeah. So say whatever the fuck you want.
Well, this guy gets more pussy than God, so, you know, why would he rape anybody? So people would assume that they're safe with him as far as consent goes. I mean, even afterwards, people would say, well, why would Ron Jeremy want to rape anybody? Like, people didn't believe it. So, like, the people going into it, they assumed the same thing, that it was a trustworthy. Like, I know with me, he was my safe guy. He was supposed to be the one to take me around and introduce me to people and make sure I was safe. And I was told by people that I trusted that he was trustworthy in that way. And so what he would do is he would gain trust. And then he would find ways of isolating. Oh, he would have a need, like somebody, like a lot of times he would offer to help somebody with their career. And then he would isolate them. He would get them into a tight spot. Usually it was either his apartment or a bathroom or like a broom closet of a strip club or an adult. Like there was an adult, one guy, the owner of the adult store, he raped the guy's wife in a broom closet. Like it was always in a tight space. Like, and they would trust him enough to follow him in there, not thinking that anything was going to happen. And then once he got them into that tight space, that's when he would rape them.
Jeez.
So it was grooming, but it was like it didn't take years. It took like, days or hours with him.
Yeah.
So the grooming process.
He was doing this to like fans, but also to his coworkers, like people, like women he would do scenes with, he would then rape them afterwards.
It was mostly mostly by a long shot, sex workers. I know that there were a lot of women that he met at the Rainbow Room. Allegedly, he didn't drug me, so I'm going to say allegedly. Allegedly, he drugged some people. Like did the whole Bill Cosby thing where he'd like they'd already be drinking or something, and then he'd give them a drink that had something else in it. I know he tried to get me to drink, and I don't drink, and I think that kind of that threw a little wrench in his game for a minute, but
right, of course. And so did you have scenes with him before, and then
no.
Okay.
I never done a scene when he raped me. I was there for my first photo shoot, like for Hustler magazine, and it was like a no contact shoot, and he just was going to be in the picture. Like there was no scene. Like I'd never done a scene. My whole thing is that I was going to come down and meet people and kind of stick my toe in a little bit and see, like maybe do some solo girl stuff. I wasn't even doing like movies with guys or anything. I was just there to take a picture.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I know there were other photo shoots that he, there was around the same time, there was a photo shoot that this happened at where he was at, that he did that too. But he's done it on the set. I know, I don't want to name the name, but there was one girl who was on a set and she was doing a scene with somebody else, and the director had left the room, and he just came in and started and just stuck it in her. Like just there was no scheduled, like he just started having sex with her. There was no consent. There was no
And like you said before, like his game was to get these people isolated and alone. And sort of use his celebrity and his safe guy attitude to and potentially some sort of chemical, right? So like, which allegedly, potentially, like, so he would use a combination of these tactics to get people alone. I mean, with your rape experience with him, I mean, what do you think? Was it power that was motivating him? Because
I think it was narcissism, and I think he was having a hard time. Well, first of all, I know there were people that he did this to like 10, 20 years before he did it to me. So like, I don't know if this would, have anything to do with that, but it seemed like him being an aging porn star, he felt like he had something to prove, like that he nailed me, like that he nailed his, it's right. like almost he felt like it just felt like he was trying to live up to the whole Ron Jeremy, like women can't, say no to him type thing. And that if he didn't, he wouldn't be him, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it makes a fucking ton of sense. So, yeah. And because he was
he didn't
aging.
understand boundaries. There were no, like, he didn't understand, like, respect boundaries of anyone. And he would constantly test people's boundaries, like, Like if somebody was eating, he'd just like pick up food off their plate and eat. Like, like he just was that.
Yeah.
He was so narcissistic that he didn't respect boundaries in general.
So not only a rapist, but like an all around asshole.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder what happened to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because there is such a story that he tells. And if you watch, like, I remember, 20 years ago, like watching the documentary and it being fascinating how he was sort of like, at least in the film, it was like, excuse me, Jesus, there's the fucking not flu again. He was sort of like this everyman, right? He was like this like kind of ugly dude who shouldn't be in porn, and yet he's like the biggest male porn star or whatever. So that was sort of his thing. And they talk about his childhood and all the things he wanted to be. But you're right, it does make you wonder what happened to him to make him that sort of hungry for validation, that he would have to rape people.
This is what I know is that after this happened to me, I got really sexually aggressive, and it was anger. And I feel like it's almost like trauma passed on, and it like revealed itself in some really ugly behavior for a while. And until I went through and writing this book, like I really didn't see it, but then I looked back and I'm like, wow, I behaved in certain ways where I didn't respect other people's boundaries either. But it was as a response to this. And that's why it makes me wonder what happened to him. Like what, did something happen to him when he was a kid? Like where's this anger? Where is it coming from? This urge, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm totally. And I want to say,
I didn't get dark there, but
no, we can get dark. It's that's the thing. Sometimes the party gets dark, and I think that we should follow it wherever it goes. And
okay,
so whatever. But I mean, first and foremost, like I want to say sorry that happened to you, because that's just unacceptable on a human level, right? So sorry that happened to you, and two, like, thanks for like having the fucking guts to write about it. Thanks for having the guts to come on my show and talk about it.
Thank you.
I think that and like to admit you wonder what happened to him, and to admit that you got sexually aggressive and didn't and you crossed other people's boundaries. Like that's fucking G shit. That's like real growth. And like, I'm such a fan of that.
That you just said it right there. The book made me grow. And it made me forgive. I forgive him. I don't hate him. I don't think he's a horrible person. I think what he did was horrible. But I think right now in his dementia, he's probably looking at himself in the mirror, and that's its own hell, So I think in some ways he's getting punished because he's having to look at himself. His ego has been shattered.
Yeah, I mean, not to compare him to this next person, but they say that happened to Al Capone. Like, he was murdered like 600 people and did God knows what to women, and then he wound up with dementia. And the last like 5 to 7 years of his life, they say he was sort of tortured by the ghosts of his victims, and he was reliving all of that from a point of, wow, I did that. I'm a terrible person. So, call it karma, call it a numbers game, call it what goes around, whatever. I mean, that's fascinating that would the things that you would do to people would come back around, and there's no escape from that. So yeah. Okay. Well, let's pour a metaphorical drink and move into so that happens to you. You're not even really truly in the porn industry yet. You haven't done scenes.
No, and I did scenes. My first scene was, I think, 2 months after that.
Okay.
2 months? No, 3 months after that. 2 months after that. Yeah. It was right after my birthday. Yeah, it was 2 months after that.
Okay.
The rape was December 12th, and then I did a movie in February.
Oh, okay.
So 2 months.
Okay, so what? I mean, you have such a fucking like legendary, storied career in the industry, and also too like just as like a voice, not only with this the stuff with Ron Jeremy, but just a voice in general. I mean, you carry yourself well. You are incredibly smart. Obviously, you wrote this amazing book, but like even before that, you were like going for it. You were like in it to win it with the porn game, and so. I guess my first question about your time in the industry is what was the thing that made you go from exotic dancer, fire breather to like, okay, you know what? I will do a film.
Um, it was the rape, honestly. The rape just threw me right in. Like it like that, because I kind of had it in my head of like, well, I've already been through the worst of it, so I might as well, I didn't want that to be,
Mm.
what I remembered about porn. So I just went and started doing movies that like really like right away after that. So
Wow.
the club I was working at, they took me to the AVN show and I met a bunch of different directors and stuff there.
Okay. And was it so you were essentially reclaiming your
I was
power?
reclaiming my right to consent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? I kind of love that, to be honest with
Yeah,
you. Yeah, I mean, how powerful is that? Jesus
yeah.
Christ! See, this is why I'm so happy you're here. Like, what a fucking incredible move and an incredible story. And as you moved, in the beginning, I mean, can you
Well, I
set
think
this?
a lot of people in general, they get into the sex industry because they've had, and a lot of people are going to hate it because I hate me for saying this, but because they've been through some kind of trauma, and by sort of recreating that on their terms, and they don't realize they're doing it. Like I didn't realize I was doing it for years, but now like when I'm streaming and stuff, and I'm like masturbating in front of people, and I'm watching them masturbate, I'm thinking I'm trauma bonding right now. But I love it. I mean, it's like that switch has been flipped. So like I'm, being in the industry, I can be on my own terms. And I think a lot of like trauma victims who get into the industry is the same way.
Yeah, I would. That makes a ton of sense. With that, well, you didn't realize that, but as you started in the industry, like it was, I think 90, I want to say 97 is when you started ish.
Yeah,
Was that okay?
97. Yeah, 97 was when the rape happened, and then 90, the beginning of 98 was my first movie.
Okay. So I mean, that's like the golden era of like VHS moving into DVD
Yeah,
porn, right? That's like where I
I
came
still
up.
have VHS.
I was in high school and we would sneak into the back of like the family video into the adult section and just be like, it was like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, all the boxes and whatever. This is like I mean, the internet was around, but it was pre-internet. So what was it like coming into the porn industry in 98, like in the middle of all that craziness?
It wasn't this. It. I don't know how to explain. It. There was a lot of like. It was just a lot of like. There was a lot of grooming and sexual harassment back then. Like with like, and I wouldn't say on most sets, but on enough that when I look back at that time, I think of that whole like. It's just that same kind of vibe of like. I got in with one producer, and like they didn't want me to talk to other talent. They did like because they wanted to make sure that I only worked for them, and they also booked Ron Jeremy, and like I told them about what happened, and they'd had other complaints from other people, but like they didn't do anything. But like it just like it wasn't like the industry pretty much reflects what happened to me. Like when I first got in it, it was just like it didn't make me feel much better in the beginning. But then once I started dancing, once I started bringing fire into porn, that's when it really started working for me, because the whole reason I wanted to get into porn was to market my fire shows.
Hmm.
Um, and then, so the first time I did that, I was working for Extreme, Rob Black's company. Um, and Tom Zupko was the director for that. And he was the first one who was like willing to listen to my creative ideas. And so that was the first time I ever breathed fire while I was having sex in a movie. That was with Brian Sherwood was the actor who was underneath me. And he had me breathe fire right into the camera. He said, "Don't even worry about the camera. Just breathe it right into the camera. I want the shot." And that was exactly the director I wanted. And it turned out to be, it was a beautiful shot. And then once I did that, then I was able, like other directors, Jim, Jim Powers. Jim Powers is the other one that I did a lot of fire stuff for him too. Like it was the directors who gave me a chance to do stuff with fire with my favorite ones to work with. And then, and I worked for some other people. I loved working for Naughty America just because they were so professional.
Mm-hmm.
And MILF Hunter, you remember MILF Hunter?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I did a scene with him that for some reason just like blew up. Like it was just a great scene. I did like a lot of the MILF stuff, MILF Seekers, MILF Hunter. Once I got away from the initial people that were kind of like had to do with Ron Jeremy and all that, once I got away from them, I enjoyed myself a lot more.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that was my next question.
Was that too long of an answer?
No, geez, no, talk forever. Listen, the audience, the less I have to talk on this fucking thing, the better. They want to hear from you, not me, and my little fucking quips and shit. But, you did then enjoy, you did enjoy all around like your time in porn, would you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. The porn industry as a whole, I loved it. I really enjoyed it. It was, yeah, I mean, it's other than the predators that are kind of like, in the corners, that's the part of the entire sex industry where I have found the most like sexual harassment, was in the movie porn industry. Where I didn't find that like working in strip clubs and, doing other stuff.
Yeah. And well, and I think, and I would love to get your, cause I have like a basic bitch knowledge of this, but just from what I know doing this podcast and in my real life, I've heard scenarios and I know people, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I have a friend who, well, first of all, I want to say, I think, manipulation and grooming, sometimes I think, again, just my opinion, fucking podcast guy, but it's so subtle, right? And especially in your industry, and it's so small that you don't realize that these things are happening till way later. And I had a friend, who was a little bit down on her luck, answered some sort of ad on Craigslist. It was like $5,000 to like have sex with some guy for this porn company. She wasn't a porn star. She got tested. She goes to the thing, and instead of one guy coming out, 3 guys come out, and they're like, "Hey, surprise!" So like those little things. And then there's another company where I know a couple girls actually who were acquaintances of mine, were friends of friends. They worked for a company called Girls Do Porn, and it was just like these guys were like, "Hey,
I've seen that.
And the manipulation is more or less like, you're here, we've paid you $3,000. You can't say, why would you say no? Why would you? And you're pressured, right?
Yeah. So and that kind of thing used to happen like when I first got, and maybe it was because I was young and new. Like I can't really see that happening now because I know, like, I look out for what it was back then is they would say, our company is looking for a contract girl. We need a contract girl. So, I mean, maybe if you want to come to dinner with me, we'll talk about it.
Oh God.
Because I want to talk about, possibly giving you a contract, and then, and then it's, goes from there.
Yeah. So the typical
that was always the way I knew somebody was like going to start grooming me, was he's just, as soon as they use the word contract, I'm thinking this guy's going to try to fuck me.
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, Jesus, like women don't have to fucking go through that enough already. Yeah. And then you're getting it double because these guys are like,
well, that's the thing too, is like, I know, like I worked for a company where, it wasn't like, I was able to get out of this, but his whole thing was that, because I lived in Florida, so they had to mail me my paycheck. but he used to make the girls have sex with him to get their paychecks. And this was like this is somebody who like produced a lot of movies. Like he's, an AVN winner. And that was like their normal just routine. Like it was just normalized that, they had to go fuck him to get their paycheck. And it's like, they already did their work. Why are they,
Yeah, that's fucking
and it's like, if
horrible.
they did, they just would, they just wouldn't work again. Like if, he wouldn't he would give them their paycheck, but then they just wouldn't work again if they didn't, do something with them.
Right. They're not on the call sheet.
Yeah. There was a lot of that kind of stuff that went on.
Yeah, I bet, especially in the 90s and early 2000s.
But now, like, the whole thing now is streaming and OnlyFans and stuff like that. I don't have to deal with any of that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you essentially, like, you are your own producer. You are your own director. It's your creative vision. Mm-hmm. You can do whatever you're comfortable with, that sort of thing. I love that. Is the person who was holding the paychecks, whatever, or did they get caught doing that?
No, he's, I don't know if he still produces or not. I don't even really know what the movie business is like right now.
Wow. Well, hopefully he's selling cars somewhere. Anyway. Okay. So your time in the industry that you enjoyed, right? When you started to feel you work in the fire breathing, you're a fire starter. In many ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might be an episode title here, right? We might have something, which I love. Absolutely. What did that feel like to finally find amazing people who listen to you? Did you then feel more comfortable to like get wild with the sex and do things that you maybe were pushing the envelope? Like once you felt okay, how did that feel?
It was all very exhibitionary sex. Like it was all like, it was like a dance, just like for show. It wasn't, which I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy it, because my own narcissistic, my own narcissism, got a fill from being able to entertain naked and, it was very free in that sense. It wasn't sexually satisfying.
Okay.
But that's not really what I was there for. I was there more for, to be the center of attention, put on a show. Yeah.
So that aspect of it turned you on because you were like in control. Everyone's watching you. Okay. So was there ever a time where you felt sexually gratified on set at all?
I never had one orgasm on set ever.
Wow. Okay.
Now I've had plenty of orgasms right after I got off the set. Like I got sexually excited, but I never got, like, nobody ever made me orgasm. Like the clitoris isn't really, like, if you watch porn, they don't really pay attention much to the clitoris, and it would be covered up to pleasure me anyway. So
yeah.
It'd be covered in the mouth.
So they were just like working you to the absolute like minimum, like where you'd be turned on, and then after the scene you'd go and masturbate or do whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because they're hiring you to put on a show, and so you're putting on a show, and like unfortunately these dudes are like not finding or not going.
Well, it's not so much the dudes, but like I can't, like, when I'm, like, to be honest, like when I'm trying to come, I'm going to take you to my bedroom, okay?
Sure, let's go.
Even if I'm having sex with a guy, I like to rub my clit while I'm doing it, while he's fucking me. Mm-hmm. And that's how I come, like, on his dick. And it's like, and I can't do that. Like, they wouldn't let me do it. It would probably be boring to watch. I don't know. But like in porn, I couldn't, like, do it to, because I have to do the same thing, for a few minutes and not change. And it's like it's not what they wanted to see. So, Yeah,
you need that consistency, which is a whole other topic that us men have a hard time with. Is like, when she says she's gonna come, like, stay at the same fucking pace,
don't
right?
Change, And the thing is like I get to the point where I felt like, okay, if I just keep doing this, I'm gonna come, and then they like say, oh, well, move your leg to the right, and it's like the whole thing's just blown. So I never had an orgasm in porn. I've done a 20-man gangbang and I didn't have an orgasm. because it wasn't, I've got dog hair.
Well, I think I've heard that tale before where women do get turned on, and then they are in the shower afterwards and they're masturbating to finally have an orgasm,
Yeah.
or whatever, because it's such a performative.
Yeah.
Such a performative thing. I mean, you opened the can of worms, 20-man gangbang, right? Was that the wildest thing that you've done during your career in mainstream porn, do you think?
That was the most hardcore scene. Like if somebody, like people say, what's your favorite scene? And there's different scenes that answer different questions. And that's definitely the most like hardcore that I've ever It was the Mexican anal gangbang.
Is that what they called it?
Yeah. So I mean, right there it tells you and there was a guy in there with a dick that was like that. I've seen it since, and I'm amazed that my asshole stretched that much.
Yeah.
So, but I did a midget gangbang, and that was the funnest I've ever had on a set. That was the best.
Okay. Okay. So both titles totally date exactly what it was like. Well, this is probably early 2000s, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Now I would have to call it a little person gangbang.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know that they would say the 20-person Mexican gangbang. I don't know that would fly.
Mexican anal. No, it was all Mexicans, and it was anal.
Right.
So it was a Mexican anal gangbang.
Yeah. Okay. But I don't know. I feel like there'd be someone wait a minute, guys, this sounds a little,
they don't age well.
Yeah. No, exactly. They do not age well at all. There's a level of baked in racism. What I don't know.
If you look at a lot of the titles, the way they, if you look at a lot of the porn titles, it's I don't know how they have got. I mean, even back then, I look at them and I'm even just blacks and blondes. To me, it's so why isn't it just two people?
Right. Yeah.
But I guess when people are looking at for a certain aesthetic, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely fetishized, and they try to crank that up as high as it'll go to get the clicks and the money and whatever.
Yeah. But even now, I'll tell you, streaming, there are things that are said and that people want me to say that I'm surprised in this day and age. I don't know what I'm trying to say. So,
well, I catch your drift a bit, right? And and you're talking about mainstream porn, obviously, or requests that you get on OnlyFans.
No, I'm talking about when we're streaming live, which is for me, that's my bread and butter. That's what my main thing, and then I'm kind of building an OnlyFans on the side. But they have the BBC, and it's definitely they've created a mood around a race, and there are certain things that people want me to say that I can't say, that I won't say because I love everybody. And it's just funny because these old titles, they don't age well, but at the same time, there are people with and I only see it in the sex industry where they want, it's almost like they want to own the racism words more, so they want people to call them those things.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That makes sense. It is crazy.
Yeah, it's a whole racism in the porn industry, or the sex industry rather, is a whole other beast that's doesn't makes less sense. The things that insult are the things that turn people on in the sex industry. There's this weird. It gets weird. Yeah.
I think I walked into another dark space. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Well, you could blow fire and light it back up. So what I will ask you is, what did it feel like truly, and take me to the week before, right? When you're doing a 20-man gangbang, physically, mentally, what does that take? What do you
I was scared. I was like, I mean, I knew I'd been in like 5, 6 guy gangbangs before. And I think there were like, I don't know, 8 or 9 people in the midget gangbang. That was like the most that I'd been with. And I knew I could do it. I'm thinking, I mean, it's really 3 at a time, like,
Sure.
and, no matter how, it's just 3 at a time, different people taking turns. But what really hit me, oh, this isn't going to age well.
Well, it's totally up to you. So
so when I drove up to the set of the Mexican gangbang, they were sitting on the curb, like, and it reminded me of Home Depot, like where they're sitting on the curb waiting for work.
So was that something that they like did on purpose, or they were just hanging out, or like?
I don't know, but like when I saw that and I saw how many 20 people were.
Oh God, yeah.
It was like when I was thinking about it, I didn't realize until I saw all these people sitting on the curb lined up, and it was like 20 people.
Yeah,
and,
it's a fucking
so
lot.
yeah, I mean, it was that was when I was like, oh my God, there's a lot of people.
Well, and again, like the manipulation, trickery, racism, like that runs through the porn industry, that's like baked in, right? That stuff that doesn't age well, stuff that like now, hopefully, I mean, even though I don't think if you go to Pornhub right now, there's like little racism cue fetishes and like whatever, like there's just what they call certain things. And it's just like, you never know what's on purpose and what's not, and what's, for clicks and like, and this, that, and the other. But like, you would hope that at some point this shit would start to like get better. Like it would start to work itself out of, and like just be enjoyable sex for people. Like instead of a, like you said, a 20 person. No, go ahead.
And what really ruins it for me is the whole family thing. I don't get that at all. The whole stepsisters, stepdad, like, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Like, I was looking for like some porn just to watch with my husband the other day. And it was like the top like 10 things were all like family stuff. And I'm like, this is gross. It's disgusting. Like it turned me off. Like it's like,
sure. Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
I find that is doing this show for as long as I've done it, and just being a porn connoisseur myself, there's 2 camps, and it's like either you're really turned off by it, or you're like, okay, let's or whatever. And it's like such a taboo thing that you would never do in real life, that I think that's what's grabbing people. I've seen some of those videos, not gonna lie, right? Like, and I've seen like what
I was in a stepmom one, and I was creeped out just being in it. It was my last movie.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I played a stepmom, and I was like, during the whole thing, I'm like, this is creepy. Like it was just at the start of that whole like my stepmommy type stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's just like harder and harder and harder, and like, like taboo. And in a way, I think it's good, because maybe we like break all this stuff, and like a freak is a freak, right? And everyone can let their freak flag fly. That's a mouthful. But at the same time, like it sort of does make you wonder a bit, like, well, what's after that? You know what I mean? Like, like at what point are we gonna like get into like snuff films and shit, which I hope never happens. But I mean, you do bring up a good point, because family stuff like banging your stepbrother and stepmom or family gangbang or whatever is always in the top 5. It's always in the top 5 on Pornhub. And what's crazy is like in my normal life, like I've come across that in having sex, where it's like, oh, let's get freaky tonight and pretend like I've had conversations with people like around the show. Then obviously there's like the daddy daughter sort of kink, fucking daddy daddy little. They don't call it a daughter, but that's like a whole like, kind of a dominant submissive like kink that people do play out in their relationships. So I think there's something to it, but I think you're not the only performer to be like, I hate this. I don't want to do this. I'm
Yeah.
out, you know? Because you do hear that on a lot of podcasts.
Well, I have stepdad issues from when I was a teenager. So,
Mm.
and I know there are a lot of people in the industry who have like similar type things. And it's like, I don't think people realize like, especially when I'm streaming and stuff, and they're like, oh, I want you to pretend like you're my 19-year-old stepdaughter. And it's like that right there. You just put me in like the worst like headspace.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like you couldn't have said a worse thing.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point, because people
Yeah.
who did have to suffer fucking abuse or like just fucking perverted bullshit from their dad or their
It's
stepdad
usually
or whatever.
from a family member.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that totally puts a huge larger point on it. Thanks for bringing that up, because I do think that is a fucking thing, right? Like there is a level of abuse that a lot of people have gone through that whether you've dealt with it or not, you don't want to hear that shit, whatever.
Right.
So,
and you know what? Maybe there's some performers out there who are using it to bond with their trauma. You know, I mean that could be that doing that too. I don't know, but I know
sure.
Like I just don't want to be part of it.
Totally. Okay, so your original run in mainstream porn was from 98 until when? Did you have a moment where you stepped out, or did you kind of
2009 was my last movie, and that was My Stepmother Made Me Part 2.
Oh my God. Okay. That's awesome.
That's a good move on from the discussion.
Yeah. No. Okay, and what would you say were your you said the little person, which is the PC
the title
term.
is the midget gangbang, and actually one of the actors described to me the difference between a midget and a dwarf. And he was a little person. So I know at the time he was like he said it was okay to use that word, but like,
yeah, sure.
I wouldn't now. But
of
yeah,
course not. Yeah. So what were some of the other fun ones? Because you said the little person, the breathing fire. You said you were scared during the 20-person gangbang, but did you get comfortable? Did you eventually get comfortable and be like, yeah, all right, whatever?
I was in a totally different world in that scene. Like, yeah, I had to go to a different like space.
I bet. Yeah, I bet. Were there gangbangs like were maybe like 4 or 5 guys where it was fun?
Yeah, I did. There was a Big Boob Bangaroo. That was a Jim Powers movie. And there was Big Boob DP Gangbang.
Big Boob DP Gangbang.
A lot of creativity goes into these titles.
Yeah, of course. Of course. But like, what were the favorite calls to get? Like, hey, we want you to do like, what would you prefer? Like, what was the most fun?
Peter North, to getting a call that you're going to do a scene with Peter North was one of the most exciting moments that I had. And that was like sort of towards the beginning. They were like, oh yeah, we're calling from Peter North's company and we want you to, I'm like, I get to fuck Peter North. I was so happy.
Okay. Maybe explain to the audience, who is Peter North and why were you so excited?
Okay. Peter North is like the quintessential porn stud. Like he's been around since 70s. Would you say 70s, 80s, at least 80s, maybe 70s.
Yeah.
And he looks the same.
Yeah, he's a robot.
And he's just beautiful. He's like a sex robot. He's just gorgeous. He looks like a Greek statue. He was somebody who, whenever I watched movies in college, he was in almost every porn movie that I remember seeing. And so he was honestly one of the, I knew about like a handful of names of male performers, and I was really excited when I found out I got to work with, that I was going to get to work with him, because I'd seen his movies and stuff, and it's just almost surreal when you watch somebody and then like years later you're working with them.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is like one of those things where sometimes I'll have someone on the show and I'm like right now, and I'm like, oh my God. And you kind of have to like turn it off and just be a normal person and just like fucking vibe with somebody. And then afterward, like sometimes I'm like, man, wow, I did almost 100 episodes of this podcast. And I've, talked to people I've always wanted to talk to and ask the questions I've always wanted to ask. So like, I can't imagine, there was I can imagine a normal life sex, like having sex with someone that, oh, I really think this person's great or whatever. But
Yeah.
in the industry, I mean, who are some of the other people that you were excited to actually partner up with and work with, have sex with? The good ones, not the creeps, obviously.
I tell you who I always wanted to and never did get to, and that's TT Boy. I always wanted to work with him, and I never got to work with him. You know who TT Boy is, right?
Yeah. Why him?
I met him on the set when I went to work with Peter North, and I was enthralled. I had the biggest crush on him after that, and I never got to work with him.
Did you ever reach out to him outside the industry?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait a minute. Breaking news. So did you guys hook up outside the industry?
Yeah, I did. When I was leaving the industry, I ended up calling him and getting together with him. And then he put me in that last movie, which I kind of cast and couched myself. You know, when you lay yourself down on the director's or the producer's desk, and then they say, "Hey, don't you want to be in a movie?" Oh yeah, sure.
Exactly. So you were in a movie, but you didn't get to work with him in the movie?
Didn't get to work with him, no.
But you worked with him in real life.
Yeah.
And so how was that a great experience?
It was excellent. It was amazing.
Oh my God, you're awesome. Well, that's fucking fascinating and a kind of a bombshell. I'm glad that you dropped that on Sex Party. What kind of things are you doing like on your OnlyFans now? Is it like a menu
cosplay.
of things or okay?
I do cosplay. So like I have I think I have like 27 different themes now. Today I was Cougar Falls. I was a cougar at Cougar Falls.
Okay.
But I have different animals and fantasy characters and like different stages of woman. I have like a queen and a goddess and a bride and like just different. I do cosplay. And then in the movies that I'm filming now, I play all the characters. and I'm making solo films, but I have different characters in my films. So
yeah,
that's
okay.
kind of what OnlyFans is about right now. And I make custom videos and stuff like that.
So people can like, chime in with their requests and you'll say, well, that'll cost this much and whatever. Yeah. No, that's great.
And I'm having fun with it right now because I'm still learning. So my rates are like, I think my OnlyFans is free. It's all paper. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
So you're doing OnlyFans. You said streaming is your bread and butter. And then are you also still doing mainstream or no?
What, like porn?
Yeah.
I don't even know
what mainstream.
Even know, like who's shooting. Like is there even do they even have shoot porn anymore? Like
I mean, I think somewhere, yeah.
I think there are studios that do it, but
yeah, like Brad.
It's so interactive now. It's like why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Okay, and then let's talk a bit about your book, right? So when did it hit you like, okay, I have to write a book? Because your book serves as like a memoir, but also like sort of a I mean, I feel like the excerpts that I read were fascinating because you're being so honest. So is it a memoir? And also it sort of feels like a guide almost to me. Like if I was someone who was going to get into porn or whatever, if I was a woman that was whatever, that's the first thing I would pick up.
Well, it's very dated though. The industry is different than it was before.
Sure.
So,
but I think some of those lessons in there that you talk about
grooming, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So what was it like to write this book? How long did it take? Were you scared to put it out? Were you nervous?
I started it the day after Ron got arrested.
Okay.
And it started with, I wrote the crime first.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I felt like I had something. So I wrote what happened before the crime and then what happened after the crime. And then everything like just kind of from there, and then I switched things around, and then I put in the backstory of my teenage years being groomed by my parents, my adopted mother and stepfather. They were actually going to use me as a surrogate, kind of a Handmaid's Tale story, and a professional came in, figured out what was going on, and I was able to escape, and then I became a stripper. So,
Right.
So that's kind of like in a nutshell the backstory. So I had that parallel with what Ron was doing because it's all grooming. So that's a bunch of steps of grooming parallel in the book. I don't know where I was going with this. But yeah, I started writing it after Ron got arrested because all my trauma got brought up. And when I wrote it, it was the theme that came out was grooming. That was the big, that was my takeaway from writing the book. So that actually brought me to now I'm going to college. I've been teaching about grooming, the 6 stages of grooming at colleges.
And what is the response been to those courses that you're teaching?
Well, I just go in for like a 1 hour talk.
Sure.
But yeah, I've had really good response. It's an interesting thing walking in as someone who is a sex worker presently, and to go into like a mainstream, especially because most of the people that come into my class are older. And I'm surprised at how open-minded they are, and I can tell by their questions, and that they have an understanding and a compassion for more than I thought for people who are in sex work. And that's like it's allowed me, because I'm a pretty isolated person because I'm a sex worker. So going in and talking to people who aren't sex workers about all this, and grooming is something that's so universal, for me to talk about grooming, that's helpful to them. So it's been life-changing. It's been great.
Yeah, no, that's really fucking awesome. And I can tell, like, in your eyes and your body language that you're proud of that, and you absolutely should be. I mean, again, to like have this sort of storied career in porn, where you did have trauma from your parents, right? And you did have trauma from Ron Jeremy, and instead of like curling up into a ball and dying, which there's nothing wrong with, right? But like,
I did some of that.
Sure, I'm absolutely, I'm sure, because I think that's probably necessary, right? But you are like almost like the embodiment of someone who took that trauma and like used that shit as fuel, and now you're going around still producing content, still enjoying yourself even more sexually, and you're teaching people about grooming. So like, I mean, that the combination of all that, like, that makes the hairs on my arm fucking stand up. That's why I wanted to do this show, is to have a fucking fun time, but also have episodes with you where it's fun, scary, valuable. And I hope that people really fucking not only get a ton out of this because of your story, but come over and like buy all your stuff, buy the book, like, see if they can attend one of your talks, because it's huge. So I think that is so amazing. I want to end the episode with a question, maybe two. I don't know. We'll see where my mouth goes, but it's a big mouth, so you never know. So the first question that I have towards the end of the episode is, with all that being said, with your career, with your life, what advice would you give to a woman who wants to get into sex work?
Respect your own boundaries. That would be the overall advice, because when somebody gets into sex work, they have a certain vision for what they want to do, and then opportunities open up for things that they have to make compromises with themselves to accept that opportunity. And if they don't set appropriate boundaries for themselves and respect those boundaries, then they're going to end up losing themselves. And that goes with in any aspect of the business, all the businesses,
Well, that's incredible. Jennifer Mondello, aka Jennifer Steele, the legend herself. Let's tell these party-going people where they can find you, where they can find your work, your book, your streaming, your OnlyFans, your socials.
Okay, my book is Adult Agency, a memoir, and that's by Jennifer Steele Mondello. You can find that on jennifermondello.com. You can order autographed copies through there, or you can just simply go to Amazon, KDP. And I've got my OnlyFans and my StreamMate accounts are both Jennifer Steele XXX, Jennifer Steele XXX. My Twitter is Jen Steele XXX, JENN. And I have an OnlyFans, The Real Jennifer Steele. And that's it.
We will link everything in the notes, in the podcast notes, in the YouTube show notes. But I want to just say thank you for coming on and being real and being fun and being dark and telling your story. And I would love to have you back. So we'll have to set something like that up.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Big thank you to Jennifer for being on the show with me, for sharing her story. It's incredibly important. It's incredibly timely. I mean, we're already working on her return, so she will be back. If you're loving guests like Jennifer, if you're still on board with me and all my shenanigans, if you're loving the new set we have building slowly back here on Sex Party, there's a couple different ways you can show that love, that appreciation, that desire for more Sex Party. If you're listening on platforms like Apple and Spotify, you can subscribe to the show. That is the most important thing you can do. You can never miss an episode, right? Every Wednesday. If you like, you can also leave a rating. You can also leave a review. If you're watching on YouTube, come on, that's enough. Just kidding. I love you. If you're watching on YouTube, I love you. I see you. I appreciate you. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel. It's the most important. You can like this video. You can like all the videos. You can leave a comment. As always, I am available in the DMs on Instagram, and I will see you all right back here next week.
Thanks for listening. The party continues next week. Click subscribe and let's make this a regular thing. Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at SexPartyFM. Follow Dustin at Dustin Rybka.